Hello and welcome to the Bundesliga prediction show ahead of match day 6 in the Bundesliga season. But first of all, we've got to wish Peter a happy Tag den Deutschen Einheit as well, the German Unity Day. So congratulations to you, Peter. How did you spend the day?
Oh, thank you very much. Well, unlike most Germans, I spent the day working, but a warm congratulations to my bully news colleague, Rune, who is it's his birthday today. So he has his birthday on the Tag der Deutschen Einheit. And best wishes to our colleague, Rory, who is unfortunately sick on short notice this evening. But we do have confirmation for our viewers that there will be a fantasy show tomorrow. And someone is calling.
Yeah, you're a busy man today, Peter. Yeah, obviously everyone calling to wish you happy German Unity Day, I believe. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. We will be having the fantasy show, even though Rory has unfortunately had to take the day off sick today, but they will be back with you again tomorrow morning as usual. But for me and Peter, the duty is to get through the 9 fixtures ahead of the match day 6. Obviously, next week will be an international break again. So obviously it's a big weekend upcoming. Obviously all teams are going to want to win going into this 2-week break. Obviously different teams need a win more than others as well. And starting off with a team that really need a win, if we're being honest, is FC Augsburg, who host Gladbach on Friday evening. I mean, what could you say about Augsburg at the minute? It's not been a stellar start to the season, in truth, has it? I mean, they've got 4 points from 5 games. In some ways, they'll feel as though they should have had more than that. But obviously, they lost the 2 away games 4-0, which is very concerning, really, at Heidenheim and Leipzig, respectively, which includes that 4-0 thrashing last week, in which they also missed a penalty too through Halvaleu. So it's been a pretty wretched start in some ways. I mean, they're sitting 15th at the minute. They're going to be without Vargas and obviously Ascende as well in this game. So they could potentially be lacking a little bit of striking quality. Yeah, for me, I think all signs are pointing to a Gladbach win here, to be honest. I think they kind of gritted it out last week in not the prettiest game against Union Berlin, which we actually tipped, to be honest. That it wouldn't be such a pretty match. But they did get the win through a last-minute Kvanchara goal. They look probably a little bit more solid than Augsburg at the minute. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 away win here to kick us off. Peter?
Yes, that's an excellent tip. I'm not quite sure how Augsburg score a goal without Ascende and Vargas. Vargas is obviously a huge loss. You know what? This was, of course, do you remember the 4-4 draw at the beginning of the Bundesliga season? So we'll be hoping for that again.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've gotten so many great Friday night fixtures as well. But Augsburg have problems on both sides of the ball. Unfortunately, not only do we have these injuries in the attacking core, but we have all of these problems in the defensive area. I don't think I got to mention it because we were pressed for time on Monday's show, but our boy Jeffrey Havaleo had a terrible defensive performance, the captain did last week. So, yes, I'm actually going to go for a 3-0 Gladbach victory. So I agree with you with that, but I see a higher scoring affair. Perhaps Tim Kleindienst commemorates his selection for the German national team with a brace in this one.
Wow, your hopes aren't too high for my Bavarian Schwabian brothers there. But yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, all signs point to an away win there. But yeah, moving on to the Saturday game, which is probably, possibly one of the most one-sided fixtures of the season, potentially, where we see Bayer Leverkusen host Holstein Kiel. Obviously it's been a great week for Leverkusen, hasn't it? They managed to grind out that point in Bayern, which we all said they needed. And then they followed that up with a really, really impressive win against AC Milan, which, maybe they were a little bit lucky there to see off Milan, who had a lot of chances the back end of the game, but it's still a really impressive win against a European stalwart, really, and a clean sheet as well. Let's not forget that. As for Kiel, I mean, they just ship goals left, right, and centre, don't they? I mean, Viner in net has not particularly impressed me, but I do think they've got a bit of quality going forward. But it's just that at the back, isn't it? You know, I do think we'll see some changes from Leverkusen here. I think the likes of Schick will come in, potentially Belocian, potentially some other Adli as well, who's not had that much game time this season. But I still, to be honest, I'm going to go for a big result here, guys. I'm going to go for a 7-1 Leverkusen win here. Sorry, Kiel fans, if you're watching this, but I just feel as though Leverkusen are going to want to fill the boots in this one. Peter?
I will. I also think that Kiel are good for a goal somehow. Man, that is, Timon Weiner, he didn't do all that badly last week in some of the instances. And of course, after he put on that baseball cap to shield his eyes, he was able to make a few quality saves. I'm going to go with a 4-1 win for Leverkusen here. I do think that Xabi rotates heavily, obviously. And I think my surprise tip for the week would be maybe potentially a start for Jonas Hoffmann for a change, and maybe a couple of goals from him. He's been they really showed no respect for him by bringing in Michael Terrier. So I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. Perhaps he gets a couple in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And then an interesting looking match for me. It's probably the one that stands out the most, actually. Werder against Freiburg is one that could go either way and could potentially have goals in it as well. I mean, Werder are actually stringing together a decent season. They're on 8 points from 5 games. And I mean, that game last week, I mean, it's hard to analyze, really, isn't it? Because on one side, they were terrible to go 3-0 down, but they played brilliantly to storm back and lead after just 48 minutes, after being 3-0 down after 15. So it was a crazy match, basically. But a win's a win. It was a good win, a historic win for Werder. As for Freiburg, they're another one. I mean, they were flying, weren't they, basically, until last week's mauling, really, by Pauli. But it wasn't a 3-0 game, in truth. A lot went against them in that match. They missed a penalty. They had 2 goals disallowed. On another day, they could even have got a point out of that one, in truth. I still feel as though Rizzo Doan is doing really well this season. Grifo, not really last week, but in general, Junior Adamu has led the line well. Perhaps they have a few issues defensively still. It's still not a rock-solid defence there at Freiburg, which is why I think this is going to be a good game, I mean, Werder have got the likes of Stage massively on form now after that hat-trick. They still maybe lack a striker because I don't feel as though Dutch has hit top form yet, and they also have issues defensively as well. Let's not forget Werder conceded 8 goals in basically a half and 15 minutes, a match in 15 minutes. So it's not perfect for Werder, but I'm going to go for a home win. This is a game that screams home advantage win for me. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Werder Bremen win. Peter?
Wow. This should be a very entertaining match. Freiburg rolled into town with a chip on their shoulder, as it was Marco Friedl today who said that they're going to come in with the fire in their belly. And obviously Freiburg, they will play better than they did last week. And in truth, they didn't play all of that badly, as you mentioned yourself. I think that Rosenfelder is back for this one, as is one of your favorite players, Kylian Sedilia, who may take over. I'm not, Gregoric could also conceivably be fit enough to start once again. It's weird. There are 4 ex-Werder professionals in the Freiburg squad. You have Aaron Dinkshi, you have Maximilian Eggestein, you have Patrick Osterhager, and also Maximilian Philippe. So, man, this is a tough one to tip. And that's why I'm going to go with a draw. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. With Werder, it's very, very important to note that, actually, you mentioned the attack. Mitchell Weiser, who served in the attack the second half against Bayern, served in the attack against Hoffenheim as well, and did a really good job. So you may not be a quality striker if you have Romano Schmid and Mitchell Weiser behind Marvin Duksch. And Weiser moving up into the attack allows for this wing-back duo of Köhn and Agu, who performed really well against Hoffenheim. I think that's an interesting development to keep an eye on.
Yeah, no, I think Werder, they have really good tactical fluidity and they do attack well. They are an entertaining team to watch at times under Ole Werner. Anyway, let's move on. So a game where, maybe there won't be as many goals because we've got Union Berlin, who, to say that they're keeping it tight is an understatement this season, really. I mean, they've probably been potentially the worst team to watch, really, I would say, on average, Union Berlin. The games haven't been entertaining. It's mostly been 1-0s, 1-1s, tight games, either home or away. Obviously, Dortmund, though, really kind of caught fire, didn't they, against beleaguered Celtic in the Champions League. And to be honest, we often seem to see the best football from Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League these days, and they once again look very good in that competition while looking mediocre in the league at times. But, Guirassy is well and truly up and underway now. He's getting braces pretty much every match as things stand. Obviously, Adeyemi is the man from Tuesday night, really, that we've got to mention. He's really clicking into form. So there are options for Sahin in this match. As for Union, I just get the feeling that they're just going to play for a draw, basically, in this one. I think they'll just try and keep it tight, as they often do. The likes of Khedira, Toussaint are going to try and hold that midfield. But it's just up top. I mean, Vertessen is kind of more like Ferguson, really, in many ways. He's not particularly good striker. I think Hollerbach, he's that kind of player, but sometimes he screams of being a second league player, in truth, Hollerbach. He can have his good days, but he's not consistent. So I don't think this is going to be a pretty match, but I think Dortmund are going to nick it only 1-0, though, for me. What do you think, Peter?
Well, I'll go for 3-0 Dortmund. Adeyemi, of course, unfortunately, we learned today had his muscle injury may be quite serious, and he may not be able to partake with the Germany U21s over the coming international break. I definitely believe that he's out for Saturday. But you put it so eloquently when it came to Union Berlin, for Vertessen, Vergessen. Very nice, Mark. I like that very much. As a native German speaker, I appreciated that. Vertessen may get the start in this one because Union have 5 strikers, none of whom have scored a goal. Hollerbach has scored one against Hoffenheim when Hoffenheim were defending like headless chickens in the beginning. But Hollerbach hasn't really been working as a striker. He's been working a little bit more, sort of as a winger. So, yeah, Union, we had a feeling that they were going to play ugly football this season. They often did play ugly football under Urs Fischer. I think they just don't have it. I look forward to watching the positional battle between Tom Rota and former Union man Julian Rierson. But I think that this should be a fairly easy victory for the BVB. Adeyemi not there, but there are options. There's, Duranville. You could do Malen on the wing. That's not a problem. 3-0 would be my tip.
Yeah, then I'm going to let you lead on Bochum against Wolfsburg.
Well, I hope that I catch more flack for being down on Wolfsburg. The problem that I see when I was taking a look at this match is that the injuries just keep mounting up. Svanberg, it looks like, is going to be, he's a confirmed out for this one. Despite the fact that the striking duo of Amora and Wind actually both scored last week, I don't think that, we're necessarily looking at a team that has rounded itself into form yet. And this is a good time for Bochum, having picked up some momentum from the way that they nearly shocked Dortmund. As Rory was pointing out on Monday's show, if they had gone up 3-0, that match would have been over. Bochum do get Ivan Orditz back. Unfortunately, it looks like Vitek is going to be out at left back, last that I read. So they get one defender back, but they have to compensate for another. Shouldn't be a problem if they move Tim Orman into the left back role. So I am going to go for a 2-1 Bochum victory based on the fact that I think Wolfsburg are going to rush out to an early lead, but neither Wolfsburg nor Bochum have been able to maintain leads at all this season. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for the home side. And I imagine you're going to disagree with me on this, Mark, based on your feelings on Patrick Trues, the former KSA keeper.
Yeah, I think with Bochum, it's very hard to analyse because I think they've not been that bad, in truth, really. For a team that have only got 1 point through 5 games, I think they've played pretty okay in a lot of games. I think specifically, last week in that first half, that was the best we've seen them under Peter Seidler so far. And I feel as though that is something to build on. I think Boadu has potential. He's still a little bit raw at the minute and he's struggling to get the goals, but he's a constant threat. And we saw it with that second goal last week that he will run in behind. He'll run and fight for everything. And I do like that. Philip Hofmann just seems to have gone at the game, basically, unfortunately. He's not the same player. But, the likes of Beiro, Sissoko, De Witt looks capable. I think there is quality. Lucia is the evergreen. It's just that defense and the goalkeeping situation, as you say. So actually, I am going to go for a Bochum win as well. I just feel as though the signs have been there for a couple of weeks now. But I'm also going to go for 2-1 because I just can't see Trues keeping a clean sheet in a million years, basically. So I think we'll see a mistake from Trues, but in general, Bochum to clock up their first win of the season. So yeah, I'm going to let you lead on the top spiel, and it's an interesting top spiel as well this week. It's not involving any of the big clubs in the league, but it's St. Pauli against Mainz. So what do you think, Peter?
Well, I hate to ruin my Bully News friend and colleague Rune's birthday, but Bo Henriksen has been taking a lot of serious heat in the press this week. As a matter of fact, the Mainzer Allgemeine Zeitung today ran a serious editorial in which they said that Henriksen is an excellent motivator, but he's not a very good tactician. And a lot of this is based on the fact that the players that he has really should be performing a hell of a lot better. We're not quite sure what to make of that performance last week. They had pretty much everybody that they needed against Heidenheim there. I mean, of course, the red card threw things off, but Sano and Kor and the captain Widmer were extremely poor. That much vaunted South Korean access that we're all really excited to see. Jae Sung Lee and Hyung Sok Hong, excuse me, pardon my poor Korean there. There's something seriously wrong with Mainz now, and of course they will be without the suspended Henke Olsen, their most consistent central defender in Henriksen's back three. And can Henriksen really be trusted to put together something novel tactically over the course of the week when he's just kind of a guy that jumps up and down all of the time? In St. Pauli, of course, that amazing win, they are buoyed by that. They're headed to the Milan Tour. They're back at home. The Bundesrepublik is buzzing with the story of Elias Saad, the German Tunisian who just a couple of years ago was playing in the German fourth tier and actually used to represent Germany in futsal. Insane. So, I think the signs are really pointing to a win here for the Kiezkicker, the Piraten, in the Hanseatic city-state. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for St. Pauli.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty exciting top spiel, really. I do look forward to these kind of games in the Bundesliga. I think under the lights, in Pauli, it's going to be a real good atmosphere there, as it's been for all of their home games so far. But yeah, I'm kind of with you, Peter, on the whole Henriksen situation, because I've been underwhelmed by them this season, to be honest with you. I feel as I was so excited to see them. I felt as though this was the year they could really push on for Europe. The way they finished last season, only losing, 1 out of the last 12, and they were scoring goals. They had a system. They looked like they had quality all over the pitch. They signed well, too, as you mentioned. Obviously, they lost Fernandez to Benfica, who was a big loss. But aside from that, I mean, it's a top squad. For me, it's a top 7, top 8 squad, but they've not played like that so far this season. I'm not quite sure why Sieb is not getting starts, because the one time he started, he played really well in that first 25 minutes. Then he was withdrawn for when Amiri got sent off. And then last week he was back on the bench. So that seems a little bit odd to me, because I think Sieb is a real quality pickup for them. And I would like to see him more. And he proved that with his goal on his only start, a well-taken goal against Augsburg. And it just doesn't seem to be working out for him right now. He's not getting the starts he deserves. But having said all that, I am actually going to go for, against you, Peter. I'm going to go for a Mainz win. I just feel as though Pauli were really good the last 2 weeks, but are they going to be able to do that on a consistent basis? For me, no. I think we will see Pauli struggle to put together consistent performances. And I think Henriksen will get it right this week. I think the likes of Sieb will come in. Potentially Hong will drop out, who hasn't really played to the level that people were hoping so far. And I feel as though they'll be a bit more disciplined in this game, you know, up against it under the lights, and they'll get a 2-1 win for me. But yeah, take it or leave it. So yeah, I'll lead on this one, the Heidenheim against Leipzig. So this is another interesting match. There's a lot of pretty interesting matchups this week, games that could go either way for me, really. And this is another one. Obviously, Heidenheim kicked off their first ever group stage campaign with a 2-1 win over Ljubljana today as well, which is fantastic for them. Paul Vanner scoring the winner in that one. Against the Leipzig side, who... what can you say about Marco Rosa's team? I mean, very disappointing last night to blow a 2-1 lead against a 10-man opposition as well. And I just feel as though I've been underwhelmed by Xavi Simons for most of the season. And he was poor again last night, losing the ball for the equaliser. And I'm a little bit worried about him. Is he really putting it all in at the minute? Is he a bit knocked on confidence? Possibly, but he doesn't look the same player as last season for me. And Heidenheim is not going to be an easy trip. Obviously, they go there unbeaten. Heidenheim, though, are just performing above everything. And Frank Schmidt is getting his tactics right, is getting his rotation right. And I'm going to go for them to get a shot draw here as well. I think Leipzig's results have been a little bit better than the performances so far this season. I think this is going to be another game like Pauli last time, where they come unstuck. And I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. Peter?
Well, I'll still go with Leipzig on this one. They did, of course. Oh God, you described that perfectly, and it was worrying that Xavi Simons had that ball loss. He, of course, did get off the mark last weekend in that 4-0 win over Augsburg, and that really seemed like Leipzig were. It seemed like they were up and running, and I did not expect the result that we saw in the Champions League this week. You talk about Frank Schmidt getting his tactics right. He used Vanner off the bench tonight, which means that he will probably start this weekend. But I still think that Leipzig have the quality to make this happen against Frank Schmidt's Ellbogen club. Actually, you know, interestingly enough, we talk about Kiel versus Leverkusen. Heidenheim beat defending champions Bayern last season. No one was expecting that, but that's is not going to happen. I think that the quality is there for Leipzig, and I think that they actually get a 2-0 victory here away from home. Interesting tactics from Frank Schmidt tonight. What he's been doing somewhat in the league is he's been using Omar Hakhtab Traore up on the wings there. But I think that, and we might see that on Sunday. But against the Leipzig 4-2-2-2, it's tough. I don't see how they get past them there. And yeah, so we split the difference on that one as well.
Yeah, quite a lot of disagreements today, Peter. Normally we have a few where we sync up, but not today so far. So moving on to probably the game of the weekend, really, and it's the one that most people are going to be looking out for. And it once again features the Rekordmeister FC Bayern München against probably the team of the season so far, really, Eintracht Frankfurt, who, you know, have been a joy to watch. They put last season's struggles to score goals behind them big time, really, and they look a really entertaining team. You know, obviously Marmouche is the one that's drawing the plaudits at the minute, but Ekitike, Larsen has been really good and is developing. You know, there's been so many quality performances in there. Still defensively, maybe a few too many goals conceded. And that will be the concern against Bayern here. You know, Koch made a pretty poor error to give that penalty away last week. Also, standing goalkeeper didn't look overly convincing. So that is something that Bayern will look to exploit. Obviously, Bayern, I mean, they lost against Villa in midweek, but I felt as though they were unlucky. They came up against an inspired performance by Emi Martinez in the Villa net, who just completely killed it, basically. Bayern Munich are going to get criticism every game they lose, but I did have a feeling that would be a banana skin against a Villa side who are really going places in England under the fantastic Unai Emery. I mean, I'm sure Sport Bild and the like really got into them this morning, but for me, things are not a crisis point for Bayern. Anywhere near that stage, even though 2 games without a win is always, alarm bells in the Bavarian capital. But for me, I'm going to go for them to get back on winning terms here, actually. I feel as though things are still going well for Bayern. I really do. Olise continues to be brilliant and was very unlucky not to get a goal last night with that excellent effort that was tipped over. Kane is working well, I even feel as though Upamecano and Kim have been better, even though last night wasn't their best night. But I'm going to go for a 3-1 win here in the financial capital. Peter?
Well, we sync up exactly. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win as well. I think that the quality, I guess, yeah, I'm just going for quality this weekend when it comes to Bayern. I don't think that Bayern are sliding into a crisis by any stretch of the imagination. This is the first time that Vincent Kompany's Bavarian bear has been poked. And I think that they will show the much cliched Bayern reaction in this one. He should have the winning formula. Interestingly enough, of course, Frankfurt are up 2-0 in their Europa League match this evening. Ekitike has begun the match on the bench. As of this recording, Marmouche has scored again. And so has Bimbe, Eric Junior Bimbe, who is working behind Matanovic there. So he may have that attacking access, the Mama Tike axis. That would be kind of cool. But I don't see, on such a tight turnaround against German champs who have a lot of confidence and a lot of depth, I don't see it happening. So I agree with you.
Yeah. But we could be proven wrong like last weekend as well, when we were obviously confident that Bayern had beat the defending champions, and that didn't turn out to be. But yeah, Peter, I'm going to let you lead on the weekend's final match.
Well, Hoffenheim have won their second consecutive Europa League fixture. They did take out Kiev in the opening, in the early kickoff in tonight's Europa League match. But I'm not convinced. I don't think that, by the way, Insoki worked in the back three alongside Stach and Akpoguma. We're constantly talking about Hoffenheim's back three and the fact that they don't really have a good central defender and couldn't buy one for 60 million euros at the end of the transfer window, even though they could have re-signed John Anthony Brooks for free. I think I need to point that out. But I'm absolutely not convinced. I think this club remains in full meltdown mode, and a Holocek brace doesn't really do anything for me. There were reports that Berisha was left out of this evening's matchday squad after a dust-up with Matarazzo. Berisha was, of course, not in the matchday squad. And that just shows that this team is crumbling from within. So up the lads, up the VfB Stuttgart lads of Rory and also our good friend Travis of VfB Stuttgart Americana. I will go for a 4-0 victory for Stuttgart in this instance.
Wow, that's yeah. I think while I did watch some of the match, by the way, against Kiev. But they were good actually. But again, you've got to question like how good are Kiev compared to Stuttgart? Probably not even close, really, in many ways. And I agree that while it was a better performance and a clean sheet will be a much needed boost, and the stats were commanding from tonight's match, they were fully worthy of that 2-0. But this is a different kind of challenge, against a packed out Stuttgart crowd, the Cannstatter Kurve, who, will probably be disappointed about the fact that they couldn't get over the line against Sparta Prague in midweek as well, in a game where they would have targeted as a win. But you know, they gave it their all, and they certainly weren't bad in that match. You know, Undav is just on fire. Mio is getting goals here, there, and everywhere. Fury could probably look at this game to kickstart his season after probably not having the best start to the year. To be honest, I also considered that Hoffenheim wouldn't score, but I think they'll get a goal. Lojek is in pretty hot form right now, and as is Bulter as well. I'm going to go for a 4-1 home win. A little bit better, Hoffenheim fans, with a little bit more cheer for you guys. Yeah, let's have a look at the table as well at the end. So we would have Bayern Munich 3 points ahead of Leverkusen, which is not too much of a surprise that those two are leading up going into the second international break of the season. And also, it's the table, if our results are correct, would be really starting to make a kind of familiar viewing already, you know, with Leipzig in fourth and Dortmund in third, with Frankfurt fifth and Stuttgart sixth, which, to be honest, a lot of people would have tipped at the beginning of the season anyway, in truth. So,
I have Leipzig winning, so I have them just 2 points behind Bayern.
Yeah, that's true. No, that is true. But to be honest, it is quite interesting, Peter, that the table looks very much like what a lot of people would have tipped at the end of the season, even at this early stage. So I think a lot of teams are having the kind of seasons that we expected, really, so far, really. And then at the bottom, yeah, it would be Kiel remaining rooted to the bottom, but actually Hoffenheim joining them on the back of myself and Peter's predicted win for Bochum. And Augsburg worryingly dropping into the bottom three. I mean, yeah, that'll be tragic for our Bavarian boys, but obviously work to be done in that part of Bavaria. So, guys, if you enjoyed what you saw today, thanks as well for a couple of comments in. Moritz as well, checking in for he's shot by my tip of 7-1. Has to be the Bino Gittins. Well, the Gittins nowadays, Doppelpack for me this week against Union. Okay, you have to put a bet on that one and stick a bet on the 7-1 too. Trust me, it's coming in, that one, Moritz. But yeah, if you enjoyed what you saw today, check out our Instagram. Obviously, we've got a lot of live vlogs coming for you at the minute, as you probably noticed. We've already released our first one from Unterhaching the other day, and the second one is already ready to go in the next couple of days. So check out our Instagram for more live posts about what we're doing around the Bundesrepublik related to football. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications as well. We are progressively growing. Don't forget to like this video as well, because it really helps us to kind of push it through the algorithm and get us better results. So thanks to Peter again, and we'll see you again on Monday for the review of Match Week 6. Ciao, ciao.